Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue, you ready for it? 100 of Mini Truckin Magazine. This is April 2000. Todd Wilt. This truck is known as Ramster. It's, of course, a yellow Toyota Roadster with graphics, tandem axle. You can see back here, Wes Allison's 20th credited cover of the famed Mini Truckin Magazine. Ultra wheels. Only 3 cover trucks had ultra wheels. This is the second of those 3. The model is the beautiful Jama Trent, I believe is how you say her name. It's a damn good issue. Lance is continuing his role as editor, and you see at the top there the hottest products of the millennium. This issue, I do believe I have a couple of these, but this one is torn kind of right here, as you know, I'm sure many that you've seen over the course of time, but this one, I think the cover is completely comes completely off, but nonetheless it is in the collection, so let's jump right in. What you can see here is a little bit of insight on the cover. Todd Wilt, one of the craziest fabricators we know. Hundreds of hours went into this. April 2000 cover. Jama Trent. And then, of course, the legendary Wes Allison. You can see there about, 7 features or so. Truckin would do this a lot, too. They would say cover truck, so they'd make it very clear what truck out of those features were. Of course, you see the tech here in the events. Godfather Customs Mini Truck Nats, and then SEMA 99. Again, always cool to look back at SEMA to see what was there. You can see, again, this cover is completely off, and I got to go back and look to see why I put this one with the main collection. Maybe my other ones are worse off. This issue also mentions Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, so we'll get to that, of course. But editorial April Foolishness. You can imagine being April and, April Fool's kind of tying in there. Some wackiness. If you like what we're doing here, leave a comment. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. We do pick up subscribers every month. We really appreciate that. If you can, watch these all the way through. It really helps us out. Here you can see this was, I believe, taken in Tampa, I want to say. I believe I remember seeing this Toyota back in the day in Tampa. And if you also, the other thing I would say is check us out via any podcast app, search OLP. A Tale from the Far Side. This has to be one of the most odd, maybe not but one of the most odd features in the magazine. Nothing bad about it. It's just a very odd vehicle. And this was an X90 Suzuki. Of course, Suzuki Samurais were super popular, but if you think about this, it being customized, I'm not even hating on it. I think it's pretty cool, but it's definitely something a little bit different. And that's, that's kind of what Lance was bringing at this point, which I dig it. Far Side. You guys will remember them with their logo. Talked about them a little bit through these flip throughs. Again, certainly appreciate all the love that we get here. Many of you guys are sharing these. If you can watch all the way through, like I said, that helps us out. There's guys that are taking screenshots and, always crediting us, and we appreciate that. This is maybe the only way, I doubt that anybody will ever go and do this again, but this is, again, we're literally going to go through every issue of the magazine. Fiery Ford, Mike Self and Lance Martz team up on this one. You could tell based upon the feature that this would have been shot at SEMA 98, or 99, excuse me. And this talks about air ride technologies, and clearly you can see right here the shock waves were becoming popular then, and that's what was kind of showcased at the SEMA show, that year, and that's obviously why the truck was featured. It was out there at SEMA, and boom, they shot that thing. So here is Tubs for 20s, and ironically enough, Sport Truck Specialties, Jay LaRosa. His name came up, of course, with Steve Platt. They were friends, and Jay worked on Steve's truck that basically is the Steel Flame Hot Wheels truck. So Mississippi Mayhem, we and the guys I hung out with, we started going to Showfest in 2000. This would have been the year preceding. The show was just unbelievable. You hear us talk about it all the time. You can see right there is the Bill's orange van. Someone checking it out. You can see the Budnick wheels on it. You can see Herb's dime here, one of the cleanest built. Last I heard, he was looking for that truck, extended cab. Hopefully it's still around, but super awesome. Featured in a couple of mags. I know Street Trucks for sure, and I think Mini Truckin. You could see Radar's Isuzu there, the famous Mazda that Craig owns. Ironically enough, look, Craig owns the van, and now he owns the Mazda. Rob Rodell, we've had him on as a guest. You can see looking down in the bed of the Mazda there. Chris Hansen's Mazda. Of course, that is, for those that don't know, that is the truck that Eli ended up purchasing, and it was on the cover twice of Mini Truckin. It did win Mini Truck of the Year as well. But this is a famed truck, and after Eli's Mazda burnt down, he bought this Mazda, I don't know technically what year, 2001 to 2003-ish, I would say. But that thing is super sick, and it was featured in some of the early street trucks we'll eventually get through. Of course, this was after Brant had acquired the Tacoma from Dan, the Chop Shop. And this, we would see this Blazer a whole good bit around. But Showfest, and if you recall, the first year, I want to say was it 96? We talked about this when I went through the issue. They actually accidentally called the show something different. So instead of show, they called it Slam. So that was just like a little error. Of course, by now, this was becoming the hottest show in the East Coast, you know, up there with, you know, Mini Nats, of course, Pigeon Forge era and that type of stuff. But, you know, two of the best shows out there. And ironically, when the current guest is on, we have Fred from Negative Camber. He talked about Mini Nats and Pigeon Forge being his favorite show. I always think back to Showfest because that's what we went to back in the day. I do want to alter Crossmember. So this, you can see is by myself, but alter images. So ironically enough, the VHS tape that I had from Steve back in the day, he was working on building this thing. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I'll speak for myself, you know, watching the VHS tape. And there was a day, I think, on the VHS tape that they may have went and picked up this cab for this truck. But I mean, there's some gold on there. I need to continue to release more of it. But I mean, dude, if us mini truckers would have been able to vlog back then, kind of what MIC was doing, what Altered was doing, to a certain extent, of course, like with the bigger cameras and things like that. But it was pretty cool. I think they went to the California Mini Truck Dismantlers, I think, and picked it up. But it was like a rainy day. It's cool to watch that stuff because it just brings back memories of me watching it when I was younger going, dude, I want to live and breathe this stuff. Easy on the eye, so Pastel Pleasures. Of course, this is Pleasures. They were around a long time. Don't know if they still are, but this was Tim Curtis. And a super clean hard body you can see there. Love the color. Great stance. Doesn't have to be, you know, the lowest truck or the, you know, the craziest truck to just get out there and have fun. And you see some of the painted pieces. You know, of course, the gauges there for presumably the tank. And then the dual needle gauge on the right for the bags front and back. Super clean. Those Tusk wheels. Classic 91 hard body. Now we're going to continue the episodes throughout this year, and again, search OLP. If you're on a if you're on an iPhone, go to the pre-installed purple icon that says podcasts. Robert Fuzzyhead Bivens, so the Yoda there, and then down here we have Hardwood. So Jason and Tammy, and they still go to shows. This was their 87 back in the day. And it was always cool if you look back at the old features. Remember, people used to, you know, basically gauge the body drop. You know, do you have a 2.5, 2 3/4, 3 inch, 3.5? Typically, that would kind of reinforce how low, you know, your truck was. Some guys could get away with doing a little less, a little bit more, whatever. The 10th annual Godfather Customs, again, rest in peace to Hal, who owned Godfather Customs. Really good layout here. Mike Slade and the Mini Truckin staff. Here you got Tim's Mazda, which we had Tim on. Tim worked at the chop shop, excuse me, the drop shop. And that truck is the Bloody Butcher. So sick. Such an awesome Mini. Always dug this with the paint. You can see it's a Mitsubishi. I'm trying to remember what truck that was. Reminds me of Ben. Haven't talked to Ben in a minute, but shout out to Ben with his Mitsubishi. Good dude. So pretty cool stuff. You can see some of these trucks would travel, go to a lot of the same shows. The Tandem there that Shannon owns. The Mazda, of course. That thing was so sick. It's cool that it's still around. The cover truck from the first issue of the new year, and then topless 720. Alter images. And then you got some more photos here, including a space cab, or that might be, actually this was Jason Dandler's, if I remember correctly, because he would have the body dropped wagon next to it. At first I thought it was a space cab, but he had the topper green. This, I believe, is it. It was shot at like Sport Truck Nats 98, 99 for Sport Truck. And he has shared those behind the scene photos with us, and we posted those in the past, that green Yoda. Easy Street was highly advertising at that time. Airlift, Cars and Tricks. Remember those ads? And then here you go. You have the Ramster ... different. Totally sick. You can see there Toyo and Ultra wheels. Something a lot different. You know, Tandem, the Ramster, right-hand drive, topless. It had pretty much everything going on for it. Todd Wilt, Brownsville, Indiana. 99, December 99 issue. He had the orange Toyota with graphics, of course, doing a tail stand on the cover. And I saw that truck, of course, at NOPI 99. This truck, I want to say that I never saw in person. I've actually been keeping track of, I went through every issue as far as the details of them and looked at the covers, and I'm tracking how many cover trucks I've seen in person. And when we get down towards the end, I'll cover some of that. But throughout these, I'll continue to cover, you know, rare facts like I've been doing. I appreciate people that chime in and say, hey, they love that stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff we could talk about, slice and dice the data. So I mentioned Snoop Dogg and Dre, so check this out. 2001, so Dre was going to call his second album 2000, for those that don't know. Of course, Suge Knight trolled him. He called, they came out with Chronic 2000, and that pushed Dre, of course, you know, late 99, to bump his album name to 2001. But how ironic, with Dre and Snoop not necessarily together at this point, you got 2001 and Snoop Top Dogg once Snoop went over to, here's the throwback term for you, No Limit. Office Space, one of my favorite cult classics. I don't think Mike has seen it. If you listen to the podcast, that will make sense. And ironically enough, I do believe that there could be a Super Bowl commercial tied into Office Space. I did see some stuff several months back on Twitter. The old neighbor guy that was trying to see the descrambled deal on the television. I follow him on Twitter, and it looked like he was reprising his role, I presume maybe for a Super Bowl commercial, but we'll have to see. Here is SEMA 99. This tells us, again, Tim Parker's truck was there, Street Boutique. And if you recall, like I've said recently, there wasn't a lot of online show coverage around this era, so seeing a lot of SEMA coverage, often I have to refer back to this magazine, to the magazines rather. Trends, so Doug DeBerti and team were still going hard. You can see there pretty cool displays. I wonder whatever happened to those. I know Doug still has some of his stuff based upon the intel from our friend Josh and whatnot. This truck was on the cover of Sport Truck. You can see SBC there, Street Boutique. Kind of forgot about that one, so to speak. And Moon Eyes, I talked to them. I didn't go to SEMA last year, but they've been, it's hard to tell from that photo, they've been in the same spot for a long time. I don't know if that's the same spot as now, based upon where that wall's at, but Moon Eyes, those guys have been around a long time, and it's cool to see all their stuff. There's Just Too Sick. That was the, Orange S10, I believe, that we went through. can see some of the stuff, some of the new products. Rest in peace, Shaun Carlson. There's the Ford Focus. It's really cool all these years later to be able to go and touch base with people, including Shaun's brother, who Ruben linked us up with, to be able to have him on and talk about his legacy. It's just amazing. Speaking of legacy, Joe Bernardo, if you listen to the current episode 324 of OLP, you'll hear Don talk about how he acquired the Steel Flame mini truck that became the Hot Wheels truck. And Joe Bernardo played a role in that. You'll hear his name come up. You can see there the chop shop. This thing was sick. Of course, it would go on to get redone or at least repainted. As far as color, I believe it looks a little different here. And it would be, it'll grace the cover in the future. But Joe Bernardo, good dude. This would become Joe Millionaire. I do have some footage of it. Quick footage from the Steve Nielsen VHS tape as well from a couple shows out there. Here you have Alter Images window dressing. Ironically enough, there was a lexan window that came up for sale this week, and I saw it on Facebook, and people were talking about, here's your chance to get one, $325, $350. Someone said Grant might even still have those, so I don't know. But in the VHS tape, Steve was talking about some of the products, and this became a hot one. Kind of a Cali deal. I think straight out of Cali, these guys kind of coming up with it, whether it was Steve or Bob or whoever at the time, but was kind of cool, something a little bit different. Probably not legal in all areas since the tag had to be, of course, at the rearmost point of the truck, but I think most of you guys would agree we're mini truckers, and, when did we really care about some of that stuff, right? Here you can see multicam, some of the stuff that those guys were doing, and you can see how they were making them. Think 20 plus years ago, guys were investing in that kind of product to be able to put out stuff. Here's NOPI 99. So this is one that I went to, and of course this is how I'm able to line up sometimes photos if I get confused. I went 2 years in a row. This is the truck that we just saw recently, and loved this truck. You can see Reds here, and that's Frank, the OG that owns Diesel Wheels. That is hard to tell if that's one of the NC guys or one of the Severed guys in the motorcycle, but you can see Severed ties here. I think this guy, I believe this guy there's one guy that had passed away. I forget if it was him, but you can see he's got the Severed Hot Wheels shirt on. You can barely tell. A couple trucks. This was a Toyota Tacoma, if I remember correctly. Super nice. I got photos of it. Here's the Ranger again, and the S10 that would be featured in Mini Truckin and Street Trucks, I believe. Right? Didn't we see this recently? It was on the cover as well, the January issue with the group photo, I believe. Some clean trucks for sure. Again, if you like what we're doing, definitely leave a comment. I know some of you guys are like on Apple TV, and you feel like you can't really leave a comment. Pull it up on your phone. Sometimes if I'm on and I want to leave a comment or something other than just liking it, I'll pull it up on my phone while I'm watching on Apple TV and leave a comment, even if it's a thumbs up. Here you've got a couple magazines sitting there, and then there's the year that I saw the Dancer, Todd Wilt. Here you've got your ad for Get Air. We see Shaun Carlson, new stuff, new forms. So NUFORMS, that was, what he was tied to at that point. I think it was technically his company. And building those front wheel drive cars. You can see trends. Again, there, some of the same photos were reused. Check that out. A Thunderbird makes it into Mini Truckin Magazine. Looks like a T-Bird. There's House of Color. I met Craig Frazier years ago at SEMA, and he gave me his card, and I told him, hey, we had started a podcast, and he goes, yeah, man, hit me up, and we've been able to link up with him a couple times. Okay, so intimidating factors. So this is the feature. I did look at this one about a week ago, I think, but this truck, I believe, was also featured in Street Trucks. It's still around. I got a chance to see it at NOPI 99. and it was kind of crazy. Like it had like even the little cab mount deals were chrome. Had some cool stuff to it. It was a 98. I always want to say 99, but this was a 98. Super nice truck. I think it was at Battle in Bama, I want to say a couple years ago, maybe a year or two ago. FBI, Fender Bender Incorporated. One of the guys, ironically, that I met through Lincoln's, real cool dude out in Cali. He listens to Lincoln Addict Podcast, which is my other podcast. He ended up telling me when I was out in California a couple years ago that he worked for FBI. I said, yo, you're FBI? He goes, no, I worked at FBI. So, Fender Bender Incorporated, for those that are listening. Beyond Modified, so another kind of rare car to be featured, a 92 Mitsubishi Eclipse. These things were super popular in their day. Maybe not as much from a customization like mini truck level, but this is one of the nicer ones that I had remember seeing. Brian Stauffer Stauffer up in Pennsylvania. Here's Sketchin'. And you can see here, you got Truckin, Mini Truckin, classic truck, kind of pushing their sister pubs. Got a space cab. Got some more ads, Mass Air. You know, that was back when everybody was trying to, you know, a lot of guys were going half-inch airlines and whatnot. Here is Sport Truck Specialty. So there is the famous J. La Rosa S10. You can see there the bullet points, fast bags, low rain, white face gauges, clear taillights. Of course, these were super popular too, the intake tube deals. I got to thank Mike Self. This is a funny photo here. I always remember. Kind of ties into April Foolishness. Where do we go now? Where do we go now? Axl Rose. And Mike chimed in on a couple little tidbits that we added to the database. Talking about Rambler, and I do want to mention that Mike mentioned Ramblux / in my mind I always think Rambler. The truck that was on the last cover that we went over, Mike did own it. He had bought it from Shaun Mahaney for, I think he said $1,800, and Shaun had built it pretty quick, so when it ran on the cover they kind of put it down as, you know, that Shaun owned it because he built it so quick, but technically it was Mike's truck. And, you know, he was just adding a little bit of, you know, fun facts there. So some Florida stuff in here. You have local minis. So the famous tramp stamp. Today's lows will be in the 20s. That kind of tied into, like, the wheels were starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger in this era. This was JP from Severed, Florida. One of the original Severed, Florida kind of guys. Matt Torgerson knows JP. This was a pretty cool logo that he had. I know it's not for everyone. But this was, I forget the guy's name. He had a green Isuzu in Florida. And at first I wanted to say it was Bruce Rivera, but this was another guy, I think, that had maybe did he have Miata door handles in it? I remember seeing him. I think someone said that guy may have passed away. Mad Bods, so Bob. This was probably JP's shirt in Tampa at 99. A couple guys used to have, we were, I think, one of the first clubs to do the Hot Wheels logo and club shirts. So there you go, Mini Truckin Graffiti back in the day. Golf Breeze Customs. Shout out to Ed Eister and his crew. They've got an Instagram page. They've been a long time Golf Breeze. Ed just needs to let me get that topper, though. You know what I'm saying? And then a couple more mini trucks there, Phantom Grill and whatnot. Good times. Good times. And then an Inky Wheel ad on this side. A little bit longer on this one. Appreciate those that rock with us. We're on the verge of hitting that 4,000 hours watched in the last 365 days. That's a requirement, unfortunately, to get to monetization. And again, I know some people go, well, who cares about monetization? Well, when you're putting out all this content, you'd like to get a little something for it. Plus, it'll motivate me to want to kind of do some of the other content that I've really been working on, you know, to continue to boost and do what we're doing here. So certainly appreciate everyone that sticks with us and rocks with us and shares this and likes it, comments, get it out there. Todd Wilt, again, issue 100. That is a huge milestone. One and only 100 issue, of course. And the next one's a great one. It ties in the Rob Scepter for issue 101. Stay on the rise, y'all. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to go ahead and flash that right now, or click through to the next video. YouTube will, of course, recommend that video based upon your viewing pleasures. We out ya. Peace.